Hi, and welcome back to the Homestead on the Hill. It's been about a year since I last made a video about beekeeping, and it's high time to provide an update on the success we've had this year. We've just completed our first honey harvest, and I'm very happy with the progress thus far. But first, I'd like to summarize last year's journey to put this year into perspective. If you're new to this channel, my name is Hein, and my wife and I are building a homestead from scratch in the arid Klein Karoo region of South Africa. At the beginning of the first spring, after we relocated from the city, I put down an empty beehive with some homemade bee lure after observing bees swarming, and in fairly short order, I had a wild colony occupying the hive. I made a video about that. Have a look at update 006 if you want to know more. During that first season, I also did some removals for people in the community, as I had the equipment. I tried to relocate the removed bees to my apiary, and at one stage I had several hives with colonies, but at the end of the season only the original colony remained, as the others had absconded over the course of the summer. One of the colonies was without a queen, and I combined that colony with my strong original hive. So I went into winter with one strong colony and started this season with that one colony. As we have fairly mild winters compared with the Northern Hemisphere, beekeepers in South Africa generally do not take special measures to overwinter their hives, for example feeding the bees with sugar syrup. I did not harvest any honey during the first season, even though I could have. However, I wanted to leave the colony with enough resources to last all winter. We did, however, extract some honey from the removals we did. Having no extraction equipment, we used the crush and strain method all by hand. Fast forward to early spring this year, that is end of August here in South Africa. My solitary hive was doing well. I had 2 brood boxes, and I was planning to do a walkaway split of that colony. I was also contacted by a neighbor who had 2 colonies of wild bees that he wanted removed. He donated to me an old unused hive, which I planned to refurbish and use for one of the captured swarms. However, before I could even start working on the hive, within 2 days, a wild swarm moved into the hive right next to our house. After giving the bees a few days to settle, I relocated the hive to the apiary next to the dam. I also put a catch box in the neighbor's yard. And within 2 weeks, one of the wild swarms he was complaining about relocated into the box. With the planned walkaway split complete, in early September I had 4 colonies, all with laying queens. My goal for this season was to end the season and go into winter with 5 colonies, and if possible, to harvest enough honey for our personal consumption. 20 kilograms of honey should cover us for a year, as well as leave a small amount to give away to family. With 4 thriving colonies and 1 removal still to do, I might meet all the goals. If not, I'm very happy with having quadrupled the apiary in only 1 season. As I mentioned earlier, last year we did extract some honey from the removals I did. The amount of honey was nothing to write home about, and I wouldn't call it a harvest, more a byproduct of the removals. With no extraction equipment, except for a stainless steel double strainer, we used the crush and strain method. This is somewhat of a mess, but we ended up with a few jars of honey, which we shared with friends. As I anticipated at least some honey harvest this year, I procured a stainless steel manual honey press, as well as a 3-frame manual honey extractor. I monitored the progress of the hives, and at the end of October, I found that one of the colonies had swarmed. The bee numbers were much depleted, but there still was a laying queen, as I saw both larvae and capped brood. I removed the honey super from this hive. I do not see the swarming as a failure or a loss, it's just nature doing its thing. I also inadvertently trapped the queen from one of the hives in the honey super when installing the queen excluders. This is why you see deep frames being extracted as well as the honey super frames. The other 3 colonies were starting to fill the honey supers, and in early December I noticed that one of the hives were ready for harvest, with the other 2 not far behind. A week later, when I went to collect the honey from the first hive, the second was fully capped, and I brought the frames full of honey from the apiary to the house. We used both the honey press and the honey extractor to extract the honey from the frames. The honey extractor needs 3 full frames to be in balance, so we can only do multiples of 3 in the spinner. The comb from the extra frames were cut and crushed in the press. This honey press crush and strain process is so much easier and cleaner than our previous messy attempt from last year. In total, we collected 17.5 kilograms, that's over 38 pounds of honey from only 2 hives. The third hive still has to be done. I was able to save most of the comb, although I did break the comb from 1 or 2 frames by spinning them too fast too soon. But in my defense, this was our first try at using the extractor. We put out the emptied frames for the bees to clean, and I will be putting that back in the hives for the bees to fill again before winter. I have a refractometer and was able to measure the moisture content of the honey to be about 17.5%, which is good. Too high and the honey could ferment in the jar. You can prevent fermentation by heat treating the honey to about 60 degrees Celsius, but I would prefer not to have to do that. 17.5% moisture allows us to keep and use the raw honey. If it should ferment, we'll just have to try making mead. It wasn't all plain sailing though. I only found out that the honey gate on the bucket was leaking after I'd filled the bucket. We had to scramble to get enough jars to store the honey in immediately. With honey from 1 more hive to harvest, I think we should be able to get 20 to 25 kilograms of honey for the season. And we're well positioned for next year. I'll be able to expand the apiary early next spring, and with frames with comb already built, honey production should be faster. The plan is to build up to 12 to 15 hives next season, and to have extra honey to sell at our local farmers market. The plan is also to make some beeswax product in future. We've ordered some silicone candle molds, and we'll use some of the wax cappings and comb from this harvest to try making candles. But that'll be a video for another day. I've already bought another 3 complete hives with supers, frames and queen excluders. So for now, we're on track with the plan, and I'm happy with our progress so far. If you enjoy following our journey and would like to see updates, please consider subscribing and sharing our channel. Thank you for watching.